Everybody, this is Colleen with Speaking of Spirits. I'm here with Kate.
Hi, guys.
And today we are talking about Reiki and Reiki, practicing Reiki. I've been on the receiving end. I'm not a practicer of Reiki. But I wanted to pick your brain on how you got started. Let's talk about what it means first for our listeners.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly the hardest concept of Reiki is because it's hard to define what it is. What I define it as is it's an energy exchange, not only between me and the client, but also the universe. So there's all this energy, an abundance of energy. It's to put you in a meditative state, and it is focused on healing. I believe that we all have the gift of being able to heal each other. So, um, with Reiki, I got started in it because I have PTSD and I was going to conventional therapy, but I was still missing something. There was I just didn't get that full healing. And so it made me search alternate forms of therapy and I stumbled upon Reiki. I went to several practitioners. I tried it out with different ones, but when I found the right few, it was life changing. Like I would leave feeling like this is the healing I felt like was missing. And so I did that for a few years. And then when stuff is meant to happen, it'll just happen to you, right? And I just happened to end up in a Reiki practitioner class for level 1 and level 2. I am now a master working on my Kruna, which is the highest level. And then I also do animal Reiki, which I'll be taking the master level in a couple months for.
Well, and I'm going to have you come out and work on a few of my animals. And then we are in a link. We're going to provide Kate's information in a link so that you can directly get a hold of Kate if you are in this area in Pocatello and you are looking for Reiki. So, she's really quite amazing. We met in early September. It was right around Labor Day. And
Yeah.
it was like instantly I was drawn to you. And it's that I think a lot of it is that Reiki calmness that someone has, because I am far from calm. and and so if I can be around somebody who can balance that out for me a little bit, that's, to me, Gina has that. She's a Reiki practitioner. She couldn't be here on this podcast, but I'm going to tell you about a session that she did on me and how interesting it was. But so when you're doing Reiki, so it's explain how you're healing. How does it heal? Yeah.
Yeah, and this is the hard part to explain because it depends on your beliefs almost. So if you come from a Christian background, people feel like it is like healing energy from God. I prefer the universe. I believe that there is an abundance for all and that there is healing there. And so it's just a transference of energy, right? Like when you rub your hands together and you can feel that heat, like that's energy, right? It doesn't have to be this complete woo-woo thing, but it's still hard to explain and almost grasp until you've gone through a session of Reiki. And then when you come out of it, you're like, oh, I think I kind of understand a little bit more. But usually it's performed on a massage table. You stay fully clothed unless they're a massage therapist as well. And it's used with meditation and light touch to channel the chakras and try
He
and
talked
balance.
about Reiki and he gets up on the chair. Hey.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have
Sorry.
to
I want to be in the middle of this. It's amazing. So, and you're not, there's some touch involved, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's
And,
very minimal though. And I
but a
really
lot of times you can feel like, for our audience, so put your hand over here and you can feel the transference of heat, just that heat energy. But when somebody's concentrating, healing on that area with your hands and not even touching it, you can feel. So one of the head injuries I had, I gates at my old property, and we had these huge logs that had been harvested and debarked, and I was setting them in concrete. So it was like going to be a big log sign over the driveway, right? And I had braces on it, and I lifted them up with the tractor and I set them down in the hole, and I was pouring concrete around them, but they weren't stabilized yet. And I was trying to get all the bracing in to get them level. And we had a gust of wind come up, and that log crashed down on my head and right here. And so I didn't even hurt. It didn't even hurt. Like, I guess right here doesn't hurt that much. I guess on me, I'm a hard head anyway. And so later that night, I was in the house, and I was trying to communicate with the person in the house, and he's like, "We need to go to the hospital right now. You need to get in the car right now." And I couldn't figure out what's going on. He told me, he goes, "You're communicating like you weren't speaking English. Like, I don't know what you were saying." And I thought I was just fine. And so they had to rush me and do CT scans and everything else and figure out what I did in my head. And it was that much of a concussion that it just scrambled my brain. Well, Gina came over and she did Reiki on me. And it was pretty interesting because I have my old cat Boo Boo who's in the house, and she's the queen, and she's all of like 6 pounds maybe. And she was sitting on the sofa. She always lays on the back of the sofa. So she wasn't even near me, and I'm sitting in a recliner, and I'm scrambled. Like, I'm sure everybody was wondering if I'd ever even get back to work because I was that scrambled. Even my boss is like, "Ooh, you need to take all the time you need," because I couldn't communicate. Everybody had to communicate with him for me because I couldn't say anything. I didn't know what I was saying was not coming out as English. So, or any language at all. She came over and started doing Reiki, and I'll never forget. So she's doing Reiki, and she's going all the way down to my shoulders, and she's just really, concentrating on all this, because I also ruptured a few of my discs in my neck when all this happened. And so she's doing all of this, and she's really, and I remember watching the cat get up and come, and she's got in between Gina's hands and my body. Everywhere Gina moved her hands, the cat went over. And she's like, she was feeling the energy from across the room and was like, "I need some of that because it feels so good." And yeah, she's like, she wouldn't leave Gina alone. Finally, we had to end the session because the cat wouldn't leave her alone. But yeah, Gina did several sessions on me, and I really do think it helped.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of funny because in animal Reiki, we joke that cats tend to be dogs. Like, they can feel it across the room and just like want to be there. Like, once you do it on them once, if you show up again for another reason, they'll just like expect it. So they'll just.
That's interesting. Do you work on like dogs that have anxiety? Does it help them?
Yeah, so the first time I actually got to practice, when our class finished, our project was to go to an animal shelter and help the dogs that had been there the longest and do Reiki work on them. And animals have the power to say yes or no. So, like, there was a couple animals that we weren't able to do Reiki on, but the ones that we were able to, within a few weeks, they were actually adopted out from the shelter, which was so amazing to see. And just to see them in this high anxiety environment, just lay down and like do a deep sigh and just be like, like, it's okay. Amazing.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the thought of being able to help shelter pets, that's pretty amazing. I know the shepherd that was up here wanting to hog the camera, he's a shelter dog, and my old dog's a shelter dog. And so I run it, just so the audience knows, I run a rescue farm. Like 99, all of the animals here, but one, were, yeah, except for Banshee, the bloodhound, were either given to me or rescued. I mean, they were rescued somehow. They came to me as a rescue. I might have spent money to get them here, but they're all rescues. So I have 40, count the chickens, I think I have like 43 animals. So, and so it's, when we can help misfits, it's so cool. And yeah, so I think that's really cool. So I have one of my animals, and I'll just talk about a little bit of Reiki that was done on him in combo with a chiropractor.
Okay.
And that was my first exposure to Reiki with animals. And this was in Texas. I had my big draft horse who's now with me, and he's now ancient. I think he's 20 this year. And let me describe how. So a normal quarter horse is about 1,000 pounds. They're big animals, but they're 1,000 pounds ish, right? They're very, right? This horse on a truck scale, I have the weight certificate. He was 2,501 pounds. He's a big boy.
Yes,
He's
he
a
is.
very big boy. And he was rescued. He was born to die. So I ended up taking him so he wouldn't go to the slaughterhouse when he was 6 months old. And I've had him ever since. So in Texas, we had a problem. I had a problem with one of his hips. Well, he's a big horse. And trying to find a chiropractor who can work on a horse that big is almost impossible. Well, this little Hispanic guy came out to the farm. I heard about him, and I called him, and he didn't speak super good English, but he knew what I needed. And he came out, and I remember him looking up, and he goes, "Oh, I don't know if I can do this because this horse is so big." And he was a little guy, and it was really cute. And he, at first, so I've had him and a vet do Reiki just to calm the horse down enough that we could do what we needed to do, because it was going to hurt. That initial adjustment on that hip was going to hurt, and he didn't want this big old animal to go nuts on him, right? And so, and the vet, there's a vet here in town. They call him the horse whisperer, and he does the same thing. The amount of Reiki, this is a horse that you cannot safely inject. He's never been injected. I think 2 people have ever walked up to him and injected him with any kind of drug. He sees a needle, and that's the only time he gets mean. This guy, he comes up and he just starts talking to him. The same thing this little Hispanic guy did. He came up to him, and I mean, his head's way up there, He's a big horse. And pretty soon, he's like, lower lip is loose, and he's just like you've given him a drug, and then they slip that needle right in to the vein. Well, this guy did the same thing, and that horse is just, he's just had it together, pop his hip, and take that back. To 2 of us to do it. And once that thing cracked, and then all of a sudden Zephyr woke up and his eyes are all big, but he was fine. It took 1 adjustment, and that was it. But Reiki people who can master that are like gods in my eyes, because it's so, that's not a normal thing, Kate.
And it's so crazy to me talking about it, like having to try and explain it. It's just like really hard for me to do so, because I'm just like, oh, it is what it is, and I have to like take it back. But it is amazing. And it's amazing the different energies that you feel, like just even between people and animals. A lot of people, when they get Reiki from me, really describe it as the energy is really hot and intense at first, like almost just like a fire coming down, and then it calms, and then it's amazing. With animals, their energy is so light and just so airy, and I love it. It's fun to work with. And I don't want to say it's always intuitive, but like if you just go with what you're feeling, like you can't go wrong. You know what I mean? And if you go with the intent to help, you're going to help. And it's amazing the stories that you hear. Anything from people healing childhood traumas to people who are like, I have this pain condition, and you are the first one to do anything and make it so that I can actually sleep at night, or that I don't feel pain for days. Like it's something there, and it's so exciting, and you just want to share it with everybody.
Well, I think Western medicine has its place, but non-traditional medicine, and healing and alternative healing practices definitely have a place too. And I think there's a way that you can marry it all together. But I still think that, and this is me, I'm not a doctor, I think that pharmaceutical companies have made us so dependent on them, for everything. And I think that there's massage therapy and Reiki and, sound therapy and acupuncture and all of that they wouldn't be in practice if they weren't helping so many people. So look into some of these alternative therapies. It doesn't mean you have to give up whatever medication you're on, but you might find that you don't need it less. You need it less and less and less. So, I don't ever encourage anybody to go off medication. Make sure that you're talking with your physician and all that stuff. But you might find that with natural therapy, even herbal remedies and natural alternative healing, that you might be able to find different paths that's healthier for you.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. I think we're seeing this huge shift that we're realizing that Western medicine isn't everything, but you don't have to completely swing the pendulum all the way back. Like the goal is like with herbal remedies, like taking herbal remedies to take care of a cold, but if it's still too much, still go to the doctor. Like it doesn't have to be one or the other. And I think people have that all or nothing mindset or mentality. And it's really just
Right.
marrying everything together.
Yep, you bet. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this. We hope you got maybe learned something that you hadn't learned before on Reiki, and yeah, let us know. Subscribe to us. We need the subscribers, please. And thank you, as always, for being with us.
Yes, thank you so much.